you know when you ask somebody like, what are your hobbies, and they're like,
Netflix.
There's some answer like that. Come on, like, what books do you read?
Yeah.
Like there has to be
Captions.
more.
I've actually had this conversation with someone.
Okay.
So soon. Hi everyone, and welcome to Apprenticeish, where we talk all about apprentices, apprenticeships, kind of.
My name is Josephine.
And my name is Alika.
And we are your hosts of the Apprenticeish podcast.
So we are in episode, I'm so excited. We're on episode 8. And this episode is obviously going to be all about application tips. We are coming towards the end of the year, which tends to mean that firms and companies open up their applications. I think it tends to be around like September to January, sometimes February. But this is a time to be making your application. So we're just going to do a quick run through of how you should be tackling these applications, because a very common question that we get is, how do we stand out as prospective apprentices during the application process? So I'm going to take stage 1.
Go for it.
Which is all about making the application. So what you want to do is just don't overwhelm yourself. I think sometimes people get really excited about the place that they're applying at. They get excited by the company name, they get all starry-eyed, and then they want to rush to complete the application as soon as possible. Or the other side of that is they want to make 50,000 applications, and it's like all just so overwhelming. So I think first of all, just relax.
Take it easy.
When you go onto the application, I'd probably recommend that you just look through it start to finish. So log on, have a look. Most of them are online anyway. See how many questions there are. See what kinds of questions they're asking. I'm sure some places have different factual sections and other parts are like open-ended questions. So you don't want to, leave it too late and you open the application, there's like 15 or 20 questions and like there's 3 essays that they're asking for. You want to have a look at that. Is there a word limit? And take a break because your brain will start to process the questions after you've had a look at them.
So the next stage would be, taking it easy in the sense that if you do feel overwhelmed, you should focus on the questions that are very easy to answer. So it's standard in application forms to be asked, full name, age, family history, sometimes criminal record, education history. What did you get for your A-levels? What did you get in your GCSEs? All of these things, they're just, little facts about your life that you know off head. And I've found that through the process of elimination, getting all the easy questions out of the way, it can clear your headspace and it can make you feel less overwhelmed and sort of reduce the stress of how am I going to complete this application form.
What was the hardest or most challenging part for you when you making applications?
The challenging part, I always find it challenging in application forms in general, is where they ask you the sort of long-ended questions, the questions that you're supposed to spend 1,000 or 2,000 words on. It's probably, to me in my head, the most important part of the application, which is why I spend a lot of time on it. And they're usually questions like, why do you want to do this apprenticeship? Why do you want to do this apprenticeship here? What makes you, the best candidate to come and join our company or firm? What makes you an asset to us? And so it's basically all of your selling points and you marketing yourself and you demonstrating how your values align with the company's values. And I've always found that very challenging. Mm-hmm. So, long.
Yeah, no, it is long. It is long. And I think even dealing with those questions, because we're sure that each company that you're applying for, they want to know why you're applying there and not somewhere else, or how do you actually align with those companies' values and the kinds of working environments that they tend to hold. So we're suggesting that you make your answers concise. Some applications don't have a word limit and some of them do. But even if they do have a word limit, it's not really a good look to be writing a huge amount of, words where it could be answered in like 3 paragraphs or so.
Yeah.
And especially when there's a word limit, you want to make sure that you're including pertinent information, because otherwise you kind of just lose word count. It sounds super basic, but when you come to, typing out your application, pay attention to spelling, punctuation, and grammar.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I made an application once and I just threw it all together and submitted it in like a day.
Yeah.
In 3 hours, in fact.
Oh, wow.
And I received the application back because they automatically send you
feedback.
Yeah. No, it's like an automatic, here's a copy of your application.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Scary. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I was afraid. Yeah. It was not good.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
It's not a good look at all.
Yeah. I mean, it all goes into sort of the attitude check of like, are you doing fresh eye syndrome? Are you looking at it again? And redrafting, like how important is the application to you? But also like practice makes perfect. Like I'm sure all your applications after that were just,
better.
Stellar.
Yeah.
But and just tying into what you said about including pertinent information, I personally am somebody who, I can overthink and I can go off on tangents when I'm being asked a question. And I think it's very, very important in an application form to make sure that you are answering the question that's on the paper and not answering the question that you want to be asked in your head. Because I can relate all too well to reading a question, it sparks a thought, and then I end up giving a response to something that's not actually in the question. So it's just really important to make sure that not only are you being concise and you're being clear, but you're being directed and very targeted with what they want. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think even with those like open-ended questions, if it's relevant, we'd recommend that you put in an example from real life. So if you have a job or if you've been in a leadership position or, maybe you were running your team's debate club or you were head of the netball team or something like that, like you'll want to use and integrate a real life situation to help answer the questions so you can demonstrate that you can actually answer, that you're competent under that objective. Obviously, if they're asking you like, why do you want to work here? It might not be so relevant to talk about you being the head of the netball team, but equally it might be. I don't know what you're going to say.
It can always be tied.
Do you get what I mean?
I feel like it can always be tied to the question.
Okay, fair.
I think subheadings are a favor for yourself and for the reader of the application.
That's really
so when you get asked open-ended questions, and you want to split it up into you demonstrating leadership and problem-solving skills, what your values and how they align with the company, like you can make a very clear structure that will impress. Like I feel like not only spelling, grammar, and what you actually have to say is important, but also how you structure it is really, really important too. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
No. I think the only other thing that I would say about this is to try and add some character when it comes to drafting your application, because we're not really talking about interviews, but some of when you're in the interview, they'll have your application in front of them. It can be very what's the word? It's like you're a carbon copy.
Yeah.
Like you sound like an ideal
like
candidate.
Generic.
You
sound like a robot
word.
Or something.
Yeah. So like I think it's important to include some character in the application. If you talk about some like kind of projects that you're working on, if you're doing photography or karate or, some kind of extracurricular thing that you're doing outside of your subject area or academics, or even work experience. It is obviously good to include, relevant work experience, but also if it's not, if you have something else to talk about, then definitely include that because people remember that stuff.
100%. And I also feel like if you're doing the application form to get to the next stage, which is interview, and I feel like, there'll probably be in a lot of degree apprenticeships, there is a panel of, 4, 5, 6 high-end people in the company, and they will have read your application and they want to ask you questions about it, and they also want to know more about some of the things that you've put in there. So you're actually giving the interviewers, you're giving the interviewers a chance to actually get to know you a little bit. It's a limited word count, but don't be afraid to put, as Alika said, all of the things that you're doing in your like extracurricular, outside life, all of your interests, what you plan to do in the future. I feel like all of that, it adds to your character and makes you stand out. So yeah.
So stage 3 is the review. So you've drafted your application. Well, you've had a look at the application first of all. You know what questions they're asking. You started drafting. Maybe you planned your answers. Maybe you just started writing all at once. Maybe you're even over the word limit on all of the questions. But now you're at the final stage, which is to review the application. So you probably want to take a step back. Even if you leave it like a day, I would probably recommend at least
like minimum, 100%.
And I think also if you're studying anyway, like it can be really hard to balance all of the applications because they're quite intense compared to a typical UCAS application if you were going to go down the uni route. So I'd say give yourself some space between preparing the application and actually taking some time to review it to submit.
Yeah, 100%. And I was going to say if you can, but I feel like it's kind of a must. Like you need another pair of eyes on it. So you should definitely get somebody else to review your application, whether you choose somebody, in the profession, somebody who's in a position that you'd like to be in the next couple of years, or family and friends. Like definitely have someone check over the application for you and give you some good feedback, like constructive feedback.
I want to add on to that. I would recommend that they actually have a job.
Yeah. Okay.
Only because, no.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, because it is good for your friends. Maybe they'll see things that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
But also people who actually have a job, like they've made other applications. So even if there is nobody who's a lawyer or like works in the legal industry around you or is like an accountant or something, somebody who has a job who has made an application.
No, that's valid. That's actually really valid. Make the application relevant to the job description. So, you have the internet, you have a lot of knowledge about what is on the other side of this if you are successful with your application at your fingertips. And there are loads of ways to get really targeted, like on the head information about what the job is going to entail. So you need to now look at your application form and sort of review it critically and see how much it relates to the job description at hand. You don't want to be speaking about, how well-traveled you are when you're applying for a firm that, has one office and they're not really planning on going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to make everything super relevant. That might not have been the best example, but make it relevant to the job description.
So and now we're on to our Q&A segment, which is a time where you guys can send in questions to apprenticeish@gmail.com. That is apprenticeish@gmail.com. You can send in your questions, scenarios, anything that you wanted to have us answer and consider on the podcast. And today we actually have someone who has sent an email. Yay.
Thank you. We're tired of looking already.
Yeah, no, we really are.
Yeah.
So the question is, what can I be doing in school now? So September to December, which is the time we're recording this.
Okay.
Wow, that was not the correct English. But it says, what can I be doing now, September to December, to make my application stand out? So they're like kind of asking about what I've summarized it. But the question was basically just directed to what things can they do or get themselves involved in to be more magical in the application.
Okay. I would say extracurriculars. Yeah. So I would say going to insight days, going to open days, networking with the companies that you're actually planning on applying to. I don't think the application form should be the first time that they hear about you or hear you or like hear your name. If you can connect with recruiters, if you can sort of network on LinkedIn and in person, I feel like all of that will stand you in a really good stead. I would say also speaking to current employees at these events, I think, and you can find out where they're going to be and what they're doing on LinkedIn. When you go to these events, speaking to current employees and saying things like, "Oh, I heard that your company's really into X. Have you found that to be the case?" These are like really good opening questions that make the employee. Oh my goodness,
It's okay.
That make the employee feel like, wow, this person's really interested in the company. Maybe I'll speak to somebody inside, because they've already got their foot in the door. Maybe they'll speak to somebody about you or highly recommend you. So it really is all about how you play the game. And then the one thing I would avoid is over-researching. You don't need to learn about what the company is doing in sort of minute detail and be like finding out all the facts and like what their turnover was and learning all these facts and figures. I don't think it's impressive because you're literally just like Googling and like learning something off by heart. Like, yeah, I don't think it's impressive, but also like that's not the point. You're not supposed to over-research to get into the door. I feel like you're supposed to show how it would be a delight to work with you, that you're in alignment with the company's future. Like doing all of these things that showcase skill set is better than over researching.
So how much should somebody research then?
I think having a look at, for a good example, within our profession, yes, you can go onto all of the law firm websites, but there are places like Chamber Student and Legal Cheek that sort of do the job for you, and they have this whole most salary, most diverse partnership, most this, most that, and they collate everything together. So having a look at those sorts of things can streamline the process, because in this day and age, there's just too much information out there. But again, and I've said it a couple of times in this episode, values. You need to make sure you know what the company's values are. If you are in alignment with them and agree with them, then you now need to demonstrate how that is, because they don't know. And then future plans. If a company is planning on getting into environmental work and you do volunteering and you clear up the streets and you pick up litter, like, do you know what I mean? It's very doing research in a sort of broad brush sense rather than I need to go and memorize all of the cases they've done, all of the work they've done. Like, no, that's not necessary. Yeah. How about you?
I think I definitely did engage in that once. Like I learned the year the company opened and what literally for this apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Got into the interview. They didn't ask me nothing about that. Yeah. I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
So agreed.
I feel like
the information is not as useful as you think it is.
But also, even if you do know, even if like the company opened in 1980 something, like I feel like if you're speaking to like the CEO or the partner and they're telling you it's their story.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like even if, somebody wanted to have a conversation with you, they may have read something about you online, but they actually want to have this conversation in person with you. And like, how would you feel if they were like, yeah, I read that online already, or yeah, I read your article already. And like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that you're doing that. I'm just saying that like, I feel like it's better to be like, oh really? And like show how interested you are. Even if in your head you're like, I know this.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
My answer to this question, to not repeat any of the points, will probably be if you are confident, and even if you're not, you should probably still do this. Contact or reach out to current apprentices at the firm or companies that you're interested in applying at. If you're able to, because obviously not everybody responds to LinkedIn messages, but if you just send them a message, people are quite receptive. You can like kind of get a good idea to see whether or not, there is anything available at the firm. If it's because some things are not on the website.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to be like real. Some things are just not on the website. I'd probably say look for, if you can get some online, I know there's online work experience now.
Yeah.
So maybe they could engage. I think
For
you
a lot
probably
of
know
things
more.
now.
Yeah. You probably know
I've
more
forgotten the
about
name
than I
of
do.
it.
Forage.
Forage.
I don't
Why
know.
did I think Vantage? Maybe. No, it's definitely Forage.
Okay.
It's Forage work experience, and loads of companies are uploading like simulations and like tasks that you can do, like proper tasks that apprentices would be doing in their day-to-day work and attaching to their portfolio to show that they're meeting skill sets are now being recreated and reproduced on online. And so yeah, there is a lot to do. And what I like about Forage is they give you a nice sort of certificate to certify like the work that you've put in.
You love a good certificate.
I love certificates.
She loves a good certificate.
Virtual ones to upload on your LinkedIn. Put them all there.
That's great.
So yeah, I wanted to add another one.
Okay.
Name dropping. So name dropping has like a bad rep, but I feel like if you do it smartly, it works. So if you're saying, I spoke to the partner of this firm, or I spoke to the CEO of this company many, many years ago, and there's no substance to the story, then that's just bad name dropping. But if, for example, like I mentioned earlier, you went to an insight day or an open day, you spoke to somebody, you had a really good conversation, that is perfect to put into an application form to show your genuine and authentic, I actually do want to work here because I spoke to X and we had a conversation about this and it won me over, or it convinced me even further that X, Y, Z. So I just feel like name dropping is something that if you can do it well and smartly and not in an obnoxious way, then it works. So I would recommend.
One of the things you can do to stand out on your applications is to study and get good grades. Like, honestly, I think because sometimes most of the people who contact me anyway, who are making applications, are really excited about making the application. And it comes at the cost of like mock exams that happen in January, or some people it's November. Like, your studies are very much a priority. And I think if you have good grades, it makes it easier. Mm-hmm. If you have not so good grades, it makes it a bit more challenging, but you can still get to your destination. I think, just the basics is really important. And I would also probably say, if you can, there is a company called Student Ladder, which is a website, and they have work experience, but it's in person. So you could probably set yourself up and you can talk about future things that are going to happen in your application. So you can say that you expect to or anticipate doing work experience at X company, which includes doing X, Y, and Z.
I didn't know about Student Ladder.
Yeah, it's more appropriate for like people.
Formers.
Yeah, like
okay.
I think it's 13 to 18.
Oh, okay.
Or like 16 to 18-year-olds.
Wow.
Yeah, so Student Ladder is really good. And then also, if you have no extracurricular activities, because I know there are quite a few people I've come across, particularly in law, who run with my identity is the work experience I've done at this firm, this firm, this firm, and this firm. And like you've done literally nothing else outside of that.
Yeah.
Get a hobby, or get something that is character developing outside of academics and work experience.
Yeah. And don't underestimate, like when you ask somebody like what are your hobbies and they're like
Netflix.
There's some answer like that, or they're blank, and I'm just like, come on, like what books do you read?
Yeah.
Like there has to be
Captions.
more.
I've actually had this conversation with someone.
Okay.
So seriously.
Okay, then I can't help.
No. It's really.
No, all I mean is when I was younger, like me reading a certain genre that I was really passionate about, it was something that was like close to my heart, and I didn't want to put that in an application form because I just felt like that's me being vulnerable. But it's just like that is what they are essentially asking for. Like, let us know a bit more about you. So I just 99% of the time when people are like, if I ask like, what are your hobbies or what are you interested in? What are you into? And they have nothing to say.
It's very weird.
You need to think again. Like, it's not true. There has to be something.
But yeah, now we are at our golden nugget section, which is where we give a little piece of, information, a summary of, an idea that we had whilst planning for this episode. Could be a book, a quote, whatever we want, a film even.
We haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
We will.
What is your golden nugget, Tracy?
My golden nugget is to brainstorm about yourself. Do some mind maps or do a list. I don't know how you want to get this information down on paper, but get it all down on paper and get some feedback from close ones and people that have known you for a number of years about what your strengths are. And I feel like all of that, having that down on a piece of paper will make applications in general, all of them, easier, because I think a lot of people pause and struggle and procrastinate on the questions that you have to ask, you're being asked about yourself. And so that is a really good tip. I did it myself. Yeah.
My golden nugget is to avoid making loads and loads of applications, because that can reduce the quality of the applications that you submit. I've seen quite a few posts on LinkedIn, in particular, of people saying, yeah, I made 50 applications, I made 70 applications, and I failed all of them. And in my brain, I was like, maybe it's because you made 50 applications or 70 applications that it didn't work out so well. Sometimes it's better. Obviously, there's space for practice, but sometimes it's better to apply, like have a smaller amount of places that you apply to and make them really high quality, because that will increase your chances of getting to the next stage.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope this makes your application process easier. And next week, we'll be talking about the interviewing process. So we hope to see you there. Bye.
Bye, guys. Good luck.